You are now listening to the Where's the Line podcast with Joseph West and Britt Dillard. Enjoy the show.
Milton gonna take a shot wide open and just strutting in is Keaton. Joe Milton does it again.
Borgie again on a blitz. Levis pocket collapses. He's on the run. He just heaves it up. And it's intercepted by Vanderbilt. And let the celebration begin. The streak is over at 26. The Commodores win it.
Talk about Vanderbilt football. All I gotta say, and you're going to hell. Bye.
Another edition of Where's the Line? It is Tuesday, September 10th, episode number 136. My name is Britt Dillard, joined here by the great Joseph West. How are you today, brother?
I'm absolutely fantastic, Britt. How are you?
Doing good. I see you're drinking a nice cold beverage there.
Got this beverage that cannot be named because they have not sponsored me yet, so they cannot be named. This is a chalice of choice, as Mr. Josh Pate would say. Or chalice of choice, sorry. Chalice of choice.
How you doing today, man?
I'm great. Doors are undefeated. It's my birthday tomorrow. I will be old tomorrow. So
Kobe
living.
Year.
It's my Kobe year. I can't wait. It's my Kobe year. I have a caption about Kobe that I've been holding on to since I was like 12. So can't wait to post that tomorrow. Literally. And I'm gonna post it just for how much I love Kobe.
Happy birthday.
Let's go. Thank you, sir. When you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening the day that it comes out, it is my birthday. If you're my real friend, you will text me.
Another day closer to death.
That is true. That is true. Another year on earth. Let's look at it the other way. Blessed. Another year on earth.
Absolutely.
Blessed for that.
An earth where Tennessee's football team and Vanderbilt's football team have yet to lose in this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2-0.
I agree. I've decided that on this podcast today, I'm going to adjust to the things that because I have two very different set of notes. I have my set of notes that I would like to use, and then my set of notes that I'm going to use if Britt forces me to use them. So we're just going to see how this podcast goes. This podcast could be electric.
Listen, I'm not trying to force anything.
Britt could force the hand. I don't know.
I'm not Deshaun Watson.
That is, no.
I'm not trying to force anybody's hands.
I hope for grace's sake that you are not. Truly do. So,
but let's get into it. We did no show prep. We're just
raw. We didn't really. I mean, I did prep for the show. I just didn't talk to Britt about it much before, like we normally do. We just kind of got right into it today. We'll start off with what I believe we ended the show with last time, which was Tennessee and NC State was playing. I believe NC State was ranked 24. Was that correct, Britt?
Yeah.
Were they 24th? Yeah.
Yes.
They are now unranked after their loss to Tennessee. The final of that game was 51-10. Britt, did you get to watch the game?
I did.
Live.
I did.
Okay.
I was not there, but yes, I did get to watch the game live.
Well, I just meant, I know last week you had to go back and watch the Tennessee game because you were working. I just had to make sure you weren't working.
No, I quit my job, so.
Okay, good. That's dedication.
It was interfering with me watching my beautiful baby boy, Nico. So I had to cut it off.
So this happens. And let me tell you this right here. If you let people tell you that you have to do, and I'm not talking about Britt right here. I just realized it's going to sound like I'm targeting Britt. I'm not. Weddings don't count. Weddings are the one exception because you should be happy to be there for someone's special day. Outside of that, though, and really, you should only you should go to like one. So, like, if 5 people invite you to a fall wedding, you just got to pick 1 or 2 of your favorites. You can't be missing that many football games. There are only a finite amount of Saturdays that you get to watch college football, and it's amazing. I told my girlfriend the other day, she was asking me if we could do something in October on a Saturday. I said, no, Vanderbilt's got a football game. No, we can't. We have these 12 Saturdays are reserved for Vanderbilt. They're just reserved. They're reserved for college football. They're reserved for me. They're reserved for Vandy. Okay. The other 40 Saturdays out of the year, we can do whatever you want. So if you are be like, well, I missed the game because I had to take my girl out to eat, you're stupid. I'll say that. You're dumb.
Yeah, I sat down Saturday morning with an ice cold Dr. Pepper and a can of Zen, and I sat on down on the couch, the furniture piece, the couch, and I put my feet up, cranked up, watched the end of game day, started watching K-State play Tulane. Phone rings. Grandma's calling. I pick up.
Okay.
I pick up because I'm
My
a good
bad.
grandson.
That's true. I love you, Granny.
And she says, listen, my yard looks terrible. I need you to come weed eat. She's like, I got company coming over later. I need you to come weed eat. So I got up and I weed eated.
That's something I wouldn't do. Like, I respect Britt for doing that right there is called being a good human. So I respect Britt for doing that. And I would like to say that I would go do that, but I would have said, listen, you should have called me earlier. I'm invested now. Was that Moni?
Yeah. And I had actually just threw some change on K-State to cover. I think it was -9, which they did not do. I had thrown a little bit of change on it. I was sitting there, I was ready to watch. I got up and left. And I was like, well, I'm watching football right now. Maybe I'll come later. And she was like, I know you're busy. She's like, I know you're busy watching TV. Then I was like, okay, I'll be there. I'll be there.
That's funny.
But yeah, getting back on track. Let's get back on track.
Let's get back to the game. Tennessee played a relatively well game. Maybe started off slower than I think some UT fans would have liked or anticipated, or however you would like to put that. Scored 7 points in the first quarter. Britt, did you take you haven't said it on this podcast this year, at least if you have, I don't recall it in the first 2 weeks. Did you make your weekly Tennessee over 13.5 in the first quarter bet? I know you will always bet that.
I always bet the just the game total. So both teams over it's usually 13.5 or sometimes it's 7.5.
Right.
In the first, I did take that, and I had it parlayed with like Tennessee money line first quarter. And then I even had Tennessee over 7.5 by themselves in the first quarter. Obviously, that did not hit. But like you said Tennessee played a relatively good game. I would agree, especially defensively. They played a very good game, not to get into it too much. But you played a man game, and you still dominated at the time, ranked team by 40 points. So that has Tennessee fans feeling, including myself, really good this week. Do you have anything else before I get into the meat of it?
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is Tennessee's offense here, because like I tuned in. I actually called today. I am currently in between jobs, everyone, so I am unemployed. Make fun of me, please. I'm studying for insurance licensing right now, so please make fun of me. But anyways, I called 4 people today. I've talked to 4 different UT fans today, picking their brain of what they thought of the game. I've tried really hard this year to set my bias aside for every team, including my own, and it's hard. It really is hard. If you really try it to just watch your team or teams that you hate, like for Tennessee fans, Florida, Bama. If you just try to set your bias aside and say, okay, what do I think about this team? It can actually be really tough. I've tried to do that, and I've tried to help myself by calling UT fans that I would normally consider homers and trying to take some of what they say, some of what I think, and coming somewhere in the middle. So I think my just overall thought, and I'll let Britt get into the breakdown and I'll get into some of the things that I had, but my overall thought was that Tennessee's offense didn't play bad. I had a lot of people saying they played bad. They're running attack was awesome the whole game. Their running attack was just there.
Yeah.
Nico missed 4 throws. That I think is what I have it written down in my notes. Actually, let me just make sure that's right. Yeah, I have him down at 4 throws. That he missed 4 throws. So I guess you could nitpick and say he sucked because he missed 4 throws. I wouldn't necessarily say so. I thought Tennessee's offense had a pretty dang good game. So I guess that was just kind of my overall recap to start.
Yeah, and what we need to do as a Tennessee fan base and overall as the country is we have to separate Nico. We can't keep saying that Nico is the whole team. Like even on the ticker on ESPN, it said Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava to play NC State at this time. And whenever people say that Tennessee's offense played bad, or I've heard people say like Tennessee played a C+ game on offense, that's them saying how Nico did. They're saying Nico had a C+ game. But the offense as a whole was great. Like you said, Dylan Sampson had a great game on the ground. Deshaun Bishop, walk-on running back, had a great game, stepping in for Cam Seldon. The play calling on offense was incredible. You've got the tight end involved. Your tight ends looked awesome. Offensive line looked mean, just nasty. The offense looked great. Or I won't say great. I'll say the offense looked good, above average. Nico still got some learning to do. Nico definitely still has some learning to do, but I think he's the kind of guy that does that. And I think I said that to you today.
Yeah, we did talk about that. To get into is it okay if I get into my early breakdown, Britt? I'll start on the super positive side. Like I said, I think the way that I talk is going to be heavily dictated by the way that Britt's talk. I think I'm going to be negative on this podcast for both teams today. I think it's just the best outcome for the podcast. But anyways,
can I say something really quick?
Of course.
On last year, I was angry all year that Nico wasn't playing.
Right.
Looking back on that, with now we have a little bit of hindsight. We don't know for sure what Nico is yet. I don't think we would take it any other way, because if you're playing in your second game and you threw 2 picks, both of them were. One of them was bad. One of them was still Nico's fault. People said it wasn't his fault. It was his fault. You've got to eat that ball. But anyways, if you're doing that and you're a true freshman while you're learning the playbook, I mean, the confidence was the worry last year. And if you start your second game and throw 2 picks, although you still won, like that plays an effect because you don't really know who you are yet in college. Nico sat for a year, learned the playbook. He knows what kind of player he is. 2 springs and falls worth of practice. I wouldn't take it any other way than the way it has played out. Yes, the offense took a down year last year. That's not any one player's fault. See, this is growth.
This is growth. For Britt here.
So I am happy that we went through that to get to where we are now.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
Just a concern that I will point out, and I will, like I said, I don't think I'm drinking haterade just yet, people listening, and Britt, I guess, as well. But a concern I will point out first and foremost is, well, like I said, I had Nico missing 4 throws. 2 of those were picks. 2 of them were just misses. And going back to what Britt said about confidence and interception. So Nico overthrows Brew McCoy on like a little hitch post route where he kind of stops out of the break and then goes. I don't know if it was bad timing. He did sell it quite a bit. It may have been catchable if Brew's in the spot. It was really hard to tell. I went back and watched it like 5 times. Anyways, going back to his next throw, he hit Squirrel White down the sidelines. Now, I'll say 2 different things about that. 1, good bounce back from Nico. Way to go for another shot. You hit Squirrel White. It's a completion. 2, it could have been a little bit of a better thrown ball. You can look at it 2 different ways. You can say good bounce back from the interception, good throw to Squirrel, and you could also say he could have hit him in stride and it's 6 instead. And that didn't matter in this game, but it could moving forward. Go ahead.
I will say I do have a little bit of grouch with Squirrel White. He's kind of like Golden Tate. If he catches a deep ball, he's going down. He will not keep running. And we saw it last year at Missouri. It just hits him in stride at like the 5-yard line, and lays out and makes a great athletic catch, but there is no, and so I don't know if that's the throw or if that's squirrel because he's kind of done that a few times. I don't know.
Yeah, the throw looked a little long, which is why I said that. It looked like he really had to extend it. I don't think he would have been able to keep his legs up. Regardless, he did have 2 catches for 67 yards. I mean, when you're catching a ball for 33.5 yards per catch, I'd say you're doing pretty well. I don't really like Squirrel White, though, so I'm more than happy for you to hate on him. But anyways, another thing is Dylan Sampson, 20 carries, 132 yards. He averaged 6.6 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns. That is exceptional. Like, you can't say it's not just Dylan Sampson either. I mean, Nico had 8 carries for 65 yards for 8.1 yards per carry and a touchdown. And then Bishop had 10 carries for 42 yards for 4.2 yards per carry. All of those guys are averaging great yardage. If you're getting 4 yards a run, you're doing great. The O-line, shout out to them. I know me and Britt both, I believe, at least questioned NC State on both lines of scrimmage last week. I would say, like we both predicted, Tennessee did what they wanted on both sides of the ball and in the trenches. They just did. NC State wasn't good there. Tennessee did whatever they wanted to. With that being said, I think the biggest concern here is Tennessee is not going to rush for, or is not going to average, I shouldn't say that, is not going to average 6.6 yards per carry. Dylan Sampson is not going to average 6.6 yards per carry when he's playing Alabama, when he's playing Texas, when he's playing Georgia. And that's something that you can argue through a ton of teams right now about what's it going to look like. My question is right now, my biggest question mark, and I said this on the phone earlier today, is what is Nico going to look like when it's got to be him? It has not had to be Nico yet. What is Nico going to look like when it absolutely has to be him? I think a big problem is Britt was talking about comparing, or like just saying that the team is Nico, and I would agree. And also a problem I saw is like that throw that Nico made on Twitter, the one I just talked about, Squirrel White. The UT fan, one of the UT fans put on Twitter and said, what UT quarterback could make this throw since Peyton Manning? And I said, dude, I wanted to comment so bad and be like, man, have you forgot about Hendon Hooker? Like, did you forget who that guy was?
Yeah.
And how
he was
awesome
exceptional.
And how exceptional he was, especially at the deep ball. Like, all those touchdowns against Alabama that he hit Jalen Hyatt with, if he throws a couple of those a half or a yard behind him, those are not touchdowns. The game could be, I mean, we don't know what happens. The game could have been completely different. It was his exceptional accuracy and just pinpoint decision-making that made Hendon Hooker amazing. So that's one thing I would like to say is, Tennessee fans, don't forget about Hendon Hooker, okay? This guy was exceptional. I don't know if I want to say compared to him less or compared to him more. I'm perplexed in the current moment of what Tennessee fans should say about Nico, I think.
Well, I think Nico is very different from any quarterback Tennessee's had in a long time. But to go against your statement that Dylan Sampson's not going to be able to average 6 point whatever it was yards per carry, I don't know if we can really say that. I mean, in Josh Heupel's 4 years, this is his 4th year, the ability to run the ball has been there. I mean, Jalen Wright averaged 7.4 again per attempt last year behind an offensive line that wasn't as good as this year's. I would say.
I'll more say he can't do that week in and week out. I think that's the best way to put it. Is you won't in the game that UT's offensive line gets beat up or starts getting bullied, and he's getting 3 yards a carry instead, or 2, or less than 2. What's the outlook then? What is the outlook then for Nico? And that, I think, is the biggest question mark. And why I have said I think Nico is generational as far as his archetype, his arm strength, his accuracy as well. I know I didn't necessarily crap on him, but was, saying he overthrew Brew McCoy, and he did. That's fine. That's going to happen when you play quarterback. But it's just right now, we're talking about right now, like I respect Josh Pate a lot because he doesn't talk about the playoffs right now. I don't like talking about the playoffs right now. We're in week 2. We don't know who's going to the playoff. I don't know what Nico's going to be like in week 11, but I know my question mark is right now in week 2. And that would be my question and a concern if I was a Tennessee fan.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something else. Yeah, I mean, you only threw the ball 23 times Saturday. And like you said before the game, you just wanted to see Dylan Sampson run the ball. And that's kind of exactly what they did. Kind of moving away towards kind of what I have here laid out. The key takeaway from this game is Tennessee's defense. Elite defense. Georgia, Alabama before this year. The Alabama of old, that style of defense. Just nasty D lineman, great linebacker play. Secondary play, kind of yet to be seen, but looks pretty dang good. Looks to be very much improved from the past 3 years with Tim Banks. And just hitting hard, just flying all over the field, hitting hard, being in the right place at the right time. Tim Banks has done a great job with this defense. And you can tell Josh Heupel is very excited about it. One guy that I owe an apology, Will Brooks, starting safety, the walk-on that I mentioned in the preseason, that maybe we should be a little bit worried about this secondary if this guy, this walk-on, this white guy is starting for your team. Is Will Brooks the fastest guy on the field? No. Is he going to get burnt? Yes. You're going to get burnt in the secondary. It doesn't matter who you are. Will Brooks, I respect you. I apologize. I did not recognize your game. Great game by Will Brooks. Should have had 2 interceptions and possibly 2 pick sixes, but I'll take the one, William. Thank you.
Like that. Agreed. One of the Tennessee fans I was talking to today said that we were talking through Nico worries, and like I was talking through kind of my train of thought, and he obviously he was responding with, we didn't agree. He thought Nico does have question marks, maybe just different from where I think he does. He did say, though, that his biggest question mark is the secondary. He was like, that's where we're going to get beat. I still don't think the secondary is very good. I think the defensive line is going to bail them out in most of the games that we play, and in the games that they can't bail them out, they'll get exposed. I'm not saying I agree with the take. I do think it's a fair one. You haven't really played. Concepcion's good for NC State, so I'm not going to say you haven't played a good wide receiver, because you have. Concepcion is a really good player, but I mean, I didn't watch NC State's full first game, so I can't really say that much about Grayson McCall, but from what I see, that dude's really just not a Power 5 starting quarterback, I don't think. I just, coming from the Sun Belt to ACC and then having to play Tennessee's defensive line, and Tennessee's defense just is not his friend. I really don't think he is.
Yeah.
But, regardless, it's a huge win for Tennessee. You won 51-10. I think I predicted 38-14 and Britt predicted 38-13. So we were a little far off there, but not too bad. It was the type of game I expected. Tennessee was always going to be in control. Tennessee was going to win big. Now, they won a little bit bigger than I thought, but as far as the game flow, pretty much went how I expected. I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you have to be happy with where you're at. You're going to get Kent State this next week, and then you're going to go on the road to Josh Heupel's old friend.
Yeah. You mentioned Grayson McCall, not knowing if he's that guy or not. I don't think it's unfair at all to question how good Grayson McCall is, or how good even this NC State team is. I mean, they look pretty bad week one. Preseason rankings, week one rankings don't really mean anything. Now, they do have playmakers, especially on offense, but I think it's fair still to say that you don't exactly know what you have in the secondary. And I think it's fair to say that in several positions. But as far as Nico goes, I have 4 bad throws, just like you said, counting the 2 interceptions. He sees the field well. He moves around well. He's confident. I think and that's where I think the first interception came from. I think that he forced it. I think he thought he could get it in there, and he couldn't. And so that's the kind of thing you learn with time. Yeah, you learn over time, and as you make those mistakes, hopefully you can be humbled a little bit and learn from it. Another thing that really excited me was the tight end play. Miles Kitselman, transfer from Alabama. He started the first 2 games, and he's really just risen to the top, and he's looked awesome. The play calling for the tight ends is back. I don't know if the confidence just wasn't there with your tight ends last year, but you're back to seeing those Princeton Fant play calls. Even had 2 tight ends in there running the ball, very involved in the pass game. I think Tennessee's at their best when you spread out the field, run the ball, and use your tight ends.
Yeah. Tennessee, I think, once again, great performance, huge win. The only other thing I'll really say is Actually, I'll hold off. I'm going to hold off. I don't want to go any postseason thoughts yet. I said I wasn't going to. I'm not going to talk about playoff. I'm not going to talk about too far in the season. So
Yeah, and there's no real need to.
No, there's not. We don't know.
But I will say though.
I have an ad. Do you care if I add this real quick? I said this 2 years ago on this podcast. I actually went back and found the episode. And I just want to reiterate this point because I haven't said it this year, and I don't believe I said it last year. Preseason rankings, now more than ever, should not be a thing. They should not be a thing. With the transfer portal, it is impossible to know who's going to get in there in jail and who's going to get in there and it's going to blow up. All preseason rankings do is when the end of the year comes, you're looking and you're like, oh, Tennessee had 5 ranked wins, and none of those 5 teams are ranked anymore. I'm just using them because they just played NC State. They're going to play several more ranked teams that will be ranked at the end of the season, I think. Like, in my opinion, they will be. So, but it's not just in the SEC. It's teams in the ACC. It's teams in the Big Ten. 2 or 3 teams will benefit from at the end of the year when the playoff comes around and we're hearing 4 and 5. Oh, they had 5 ranked wins this year. They went on the road and beat 3 ranked teams, and none of those 3 teams are ranked anymore. They're not even in the top 40. Like, that's not a ranked win anymore. That ranked win is gone. They're no longer ranked. They are outside of the top 40 now. They just simply weren't a ranked team. They weren't that good. And honestly, I wanted Virginia Tech to be ranked when Vanderbilt played them to my benefit, to be able to say Vanderbilt knocked off a ranked team. I did, because that's the way the system is. But that doesn't mean that I agree with it. So let's let that be said too.
I agree and disagree. I mean, obviously when you lose a game, you fall in the rankings. So you beating them kind of contributed to them not being in the ranking anymore. And I mean, you can only play who they put in front of you, and can't do anything about how they rank.
This is my thing, right? So NC State, they were ranked 24. It's going to count for a ranked win for Tennessee. If NC State wins 1 game the rest of the year, is that a good win? Like, in your opinion, not asking anybody else, just your opinion. They go 2-10. Is that a good win anymore?
I would generally say no, but like we've said throughout the years, the Alabama effect. Like anytime a team plays Alabama, after that they
fall apart. Yeah,
they're a shell of themselves.
Yeah, happened to Vandy for sure. And so you can, for sure, things can happen, and you can play different teams. And there is an argument against the point that preseason ranking should be a thing, and I get it. But to me, it's just like I said after Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech. I said I hope Virginia Tech goes 11-1 because that just makes Vanderbilt look better. That's all it does. It just makes Vanderbilt look better. I don't really care about anything else besides I need that win at the end of the season to look the best that it possibly can. They weren't ranked when Vanderbilt played them, but if they go 9-3 or 10-2, then you're looking back and saying, holy crap, that was a really quality win. And even if it wasn't, it appears that way, and that's what matters. So I don't know. I think that really got me going over the weekend because I was hearing people talk about ranked wins already, and I'm like, dude, none of these teams are, especially ACC teams. Like, you're going to give who did Florida State play week? Georgia Tech. You're giving Georgia Tech a top 10 ranked win.
Yeah, that's garbage.
And Florida State sucks. I fully believe right now Vanderbilt would beat Florida State. And I would put, and people are like, Joseph, do you really believe that? I would put my own cold hard cash on it. I'd put $250 on the money line straight up. As neutral site, give me Vandy all day long. All day long, give me Vandy.
Well, I mean, in basketball, when they're doing the tournament seeding, they adjust are they called
your quads? Yeah, quad. Yeah. You have quad 1, 2, 3, and 4.
They adjust those as the season goes on.
And see, that is honestly, basketball does it a lot better as far as this is a quad 1 win, this is a quad 4 win, and it can adjust. It can adjust as the season goes, which is smart. Like Vanderbilt plays Virginia Tech in basketball. I think right now it's a Q2 game. Virginia Tech has a good season. It's going to go to a Q1 game instead. So I like the way that basketball does it. I think football could really use benefit of that. And like Britt said, there is an argument. Like, you can point to the 17 season where Vanderbilt played Alabama, started off 3-0, and then after we played Bama and got absolutely rocked, we just weren't the same team after that. You could just see it. It just wasn't the same team that you watched play in the first 3 games. And I get it. I understand that debate that Britt said, and I actually agree with it. I just think that there needs to be some way of adapting halfway through the season or at the end of the season, whenever. If you wanted to adjust it at game 6, after every team's played 6 games, you're saying, hey, we're adjusting it, and then we're adjusting it right before the playoff. I think that would be great.
I mean, I do think if Georgia Tech was to hypothetically get to the outskirts of making the playoff, they're not going to, but I don't think the Florida State win would hold much weight.
Yeah.
It would hold some weight, but not a
yeah.
top 10 win weight.
Right. No, and I think I agree with you too there. So I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Okay. Well, Tennessee plays Kent State next week. We won't do a preview on that. Just get in, get out, don't get injured. I will be in Neyland Stadium. Looking forward to that.
First time this year? Going to be Neyland?
Yeah, first time this year. I'll be in X5. But I just want to say this. Number 7 is too low.
Number 7 is too low.
If Tennessee's defense plays even up to 80% of how they played Saturday, and Nico learns from his mistakes, Tennessee is a top 4 team at the end of the season. Tennessee would make a 4-team playoff if those two things happen. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, Tennessee, I was looking at this today, the ESPN FPI rankings, which is basically just College Football Power Index that ESPN puts out. I've always kind of made fun of it, but they've hit Vanderbilt's, like after the second game of the year, it's like they've hit Vanderbilt's win total like every time. So at some point, I'm just going to start believing. I believe in it this year. So I was looking at this earlier, and let me get Tennessee pulled up here just to make sure. Yeah. So they're showing that they have a 99.8% chance to win 6 games. I think that everybody would agree with that. I would agree with that. To win out, 3.1% chance. To win, let's see, their projected win total is 9.8. So they're going to lose. It's saying they're going to lose 2.4 games. So they're teetering right now between going 10-2 and 9-3. I think that is somewhere around the way that you should expect Tennessee to go. They have, just to go to Vanderbilt really quickly, they have us at a 52% chance to win 6 games. So they're, I think that's fair as far as like a rating goes.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair for Tennessee too. That 9.8, it should be you win all the games that you are supposed to. That's the 9. The 0.8 is Oklahoma in 2 weeks. That Oklahoma game, if you take care of business, we haven't seen Josh Heupel complete it. We haven't seen him put it all together, get all 6 stones. Is it 6? It's 5.
Yeah. Oh, it's 6. He's got
all
one in
6 stones.
Yeah. Because he's got one on every finger and then one right here.
Yeah,
6 Infinity Stones.
6. We haven't seen him get all 6.
Yeah.
Clark Lee. 0.8 is Oklahoma.
Clark Lee is 2 of his 6 Infinity Stones. We're talking about 2 different destinations of what the Infinity Stones are going to do, but Clark does have 2 of his 6. Going for 3 of his 6 this week. Vanderbilt coming off a win 55-0 against Alcorn State. I was in attendance. I'll start by saying this. Vanderbilt fans, thank you. You put up the best FCS crowd I have seen since Franklin was here. And there's one thing that I've always wanted to do. I hate when other fan bases cannot stand it when other fan bases talk about our crowds. Because ultimately it doesn't because people will bring it up to debate me in an argument. And that is irrelevant. That does not matter. However, as a fan who loves Vanderbilt more than I love a lot of things in this life, I wish I could duplicate myself in the stadium and just make there be like 500 of me or 1,000 of me that just loves Vanderbilt and wants to see the stadium full, And so seeing the stadium 75 to 80% full was much better, much improved. The home side was completely full. The away side probably had a good 20% of seats left. So with that being said, just wanted to shout out the fans. They showed up. Man, in this game, really, you can talk about a lot of things. Vanderbilt kept their offense so vanilla. Vanderbilt did not run anything crazy. They ran like some slants. They didn't run any crazy formations. They ran one trick play. And outside of that one trick play that they ran, the offense was as vanilla gets. And exactly what you want to do when you're playing Alcorn State, really. So hats off to them. Honestly, I'm switching over to my other notepad here. There's not a ton that I'll totally break down about this game. One thing I will say, Nate Johnson, that man is fast. That man is fast. That man got around the end. He had two dudes with a great angle on him coming from the second and third level of the field, and he just ran by them like they were nothing. I know we were playing Alcorn State, but you can just, you know what I'm saying, Bree? You can just tell when someone's that much faster than everyone else. You know, he was just that much faster. So it was good to see him out there. Diego Pavia went 10 for 13 for 83 yards. I mean, they didn't ask him to do too much. He threw a couple passes, got out of that game, and was done. Nate Johnson also did not complete a throw. Eli Stowers completed one throw on a trick play. He's a tight end, was a 4-star quarterback recruit to Texas A&M, originally out of high school, and now plays tight end, played at New Mexico State, and now for Vandy, but threw a touchdown pass to Cole Spence. Yeah, I mean, they really did everything. To shout out a couple guys, Tristan Brown, true freshman, came in, made a great one-handed catch that ESPN showed. It was a great catch for a true freshman, or for anybody, but especially for a true freshman. I think you could see a lot of good things out of him. He's really quick. He's number 80 though, and I think that's kind of weird just because he's small. He doesn't like, normally when I see number 80, I'm trying like a big bulky receiver, but he's pretty small and shifty. So that's kind of funny. But outside of that, I mean, offense did what they needed to do, didn't give away any plays, kept the playbook hidden like they were planning to, and didn't have to show much else. You were missing on defense. You were missing Corday Sidnor, the Purdue transfer who sat out with an ankle injury just to try to get healthy here. Started practicing again. Actually, today was his first day back. But I mean, the defense, we played, I think it was 32 guys on defense against Alcorn State. We played an absolute crap ton of guys. I mean, everybody got action. Just to go through guys, we'll go. Dante Carter, of course, got action. Martel Height, Christian James, Jalen Lackey, Mason Carter, Bryce Cowan, Brian Longwell, Miles Capers, Marlon Sewell, Jalen Ruth, Linus Zunk, Trudell Berry, Jeffrey Hugo, Langston Patterson, Jalen Gilbert, Bird, BJ Diakite, Rando Fontenette, Steven Sonolia, Tyson Russell. And I'm only a little over halfway through the list. Vanderbilt played everybody, really. They said, we're going to put everybody out on the field. We go see what they got. And they did. Vanderbilt got a pick 6. Defense played well, like you were expecting to. If Vanderbilt would have given up any big plays or any yardage or any free wide receivers, I would have been totally saying something totally different about this defense. But the defense did exactly what they should. They didn't let this Alcorn State team gain any yards, and they played their game. I mean, that's just what happened. I think that, there's not a ton to break down about this game, but just on like a total preview you're seeing, or a total outlook you're seeing, hey, Vanderbilt, I mean, they did what they were supposed to do. They didn't have to do anything crazy. They just did exactly what they had to do, and I think that's great. I was trying to pull up Alcorn State had the ball for 29 minutes of this game, and they had 71 total yards of offense. So good job, Vanderbilt defense. Good job, offense. You did exactly what you're supposed to do. You kept the momentum. I said win something like 40-0. You won 55-0. You kept the momentum rolling. The team believes. I think that's number one factor. Everybody always talks about James Franklin. They say what separated James Franklin is he made the guys in the locker room believe that they were going to go 12-0. He just talked them into it, that even at Vandy, you could go 12-0. That's what it takes. I think this team believes that. I'm not saying we're going 12-0. I just think this team actually believes it, and that matters.
Well, having these 3 games to open the season, I think, are really important for Vanderbilt to establish that confidence and then get some momentum rolling going into Missouri. Because, I mean, especially after this weekend, take a look forward, as Jeremy Pruitt would say, to the rest of the schedule. And there's some games that have opened up.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's definitely going to go into the gauntlet. We've got 4 top as of today. We have 4 top 10 ranked teams to play this year. That's Alabama. That's Texas. That's is LSU top 10 still?
16.
16. I'm sorry. You've got 3 or 4 top 20 teams. LSU and Tennessee. 3 top 10 teams though. I mean, you're going to go into the gauntlet there of playing some tough games. So it's
Don't
good
forget
for
Missouri.
Vanderbilt. Oh, that was the other one that I was leaving out. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's Missouri, Bama, Texas, Tennessee, and then 5 if you throw in LSU at number 16. So 5 in the top 24 in the top 10. I mean, that right there is it does per the schedule index or whatever. We had the second hardest schedule in the nation. So I mean, that is a really tough stretch of games there that you're going to have to play. It's going to take your confidence. It's going to take you executing to absolute perfection to win these games. So excited to see that and just kind of see what the season holds. Britt, if you have anything on the Alcorn State game, by all means.
No, I don't have anything. Just interested to look ahead. I would almost go ahead and say that college football as a whole is down this year. I don't think that's really a stretch to say that.
No.
Missouri is not a top 10 team. They may be top 15. They are not a top 10 team. They've got a great defense. That's it.
I am curious to see how they look against Boston College. Missouri's a question mark for me right now. I'm unsure if they're really a top 10 team or not. I think Luther Burden is the truth. I think Brady Cook is a really good college quarterback. I do think they have both of those things going for them, and they've got a good defense. Also, though, their defense hasn't played anybody to be exposed yet. I thought Missouri had an elite defense last year. They really didn't. Their offense carried them. Their offense just really did. Their offense won them games. So, we'll see what their defense really has this week, I think, against Boston College. Even though Boston College isn't the greatest offense or anything, you can at least see if they get some things open for them, and you'll be able to see kind of what Missouri has in store for Vanderbilt in 2 weeks. But Vanderbilt does have a game before Missouri, Georgia State. We are going down to Atlanta at Old Turner Field this weekend. Shout out to the old Brave Stadium, Turner Field. Britt, I will let you start if you have anything to say about this, by all means.
Don't lose to Georgia State.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
They asked Clark Lee in his press conference what he was, not necessarily this was the question, but I mean, for lack of a better term, what was he scared of? And he was like, well, this Georgia State team, he did not mention Tennessee, but he was like, this Georgia State has beat an SEC program before. He was like, so it's not like it can't be done or anything, So he was talking about the attitude of the team and how they needed to lock in and focus on Georgia State and make sure to win. This Georgia State team actually has several talented players on their team, which doesn't make a lot of sense when you look back to last week and you see that they only beat UT Chat by a score. That's all they beat UTC by last week, which is really weird because they actually have some pretty dang good athletes on their team. But ultimately for me, this spread opened up at minus 10.5. I've put more money on that than I would like to admit, so I'll just keep it at that. I can't believe it's that low. When I first seen the line of minus 10.5, I got a little nervous about just what I thought of this game. Britt, Vegas has tall buildings. How much do you look into it when your team, you're like, oh, I bet we're going to be, we're playing Mississippi State. I bet we're going to be 21.5 point favorites. And you open up at something crazy like 7.5. Like, I feel like that has to scare you because Vegas knows. Vegas always knows. They just do. So I'll open it up saying, how do you feel about that?
I normally respect the total number, the over-under. They're normally pretty dang close on it. I mean, they were dead on at 60.5 in the Tennessee game. I don't think many people in Vegas are sitting around watching Vanderbilt games and Georgia State games.
Yeah.
And they also had Tennessee as a 4.5 point favorite going into last week against NC State. So I don't put a ton of. I mean, that's why lines move.
Yeah, true.
I don't put too much stock into it, but I do put some. Even with that being
said, I thought it was going to be like a 17.5 line-ish. I thought it was going to be like half of what Alcorn State was, which was 32. So I thought you could see like an opening 15.5 point line open up, and I thought that would have been about right. So just since it was almost a whole touchdown lower, I was like, wow, do they know something I don't know? So that did make me question some things, but I'm not necessarily scared of the game. Ultimately, for this game, it's really simple. keep the momentum, blow the doors off these guys, beat them by 30. Like, I think you really have to do that, in my opinion. Last week, Georgia State had 391 yards of total offense. They forced 3 turnovers. They went 7 for 16 on third downs. Christian Vialex, I'm not really sure how to say his last name. I know that's not right. But threw for 238 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a solid player. I honestly, after the line, I've just kind of been perplexed about this game. But ultimately, they got to come out hot. Pavia is a great player. I think we can win every game if he's on the field. Keep Pavia healthy. Don't let him take a lot of hits. Play your game and dominate. I mean, that's ultimately what I kind of have for this. If I had 3 keys to the game here, key number 1 is going to be establish the run. Offensive line, I think they just got lazy in the second quarter last week. And, maybe they're ready to come out of the game, knew it was over. Come out and dominate from snap 1, dominate these dudes, run the football, throw it around a little bit too. I hope we get up enough where I can see some Nate Johnson again. Would like to see him throw the football a little bit, see what he's got in the tank as far as throwing it, since he didn't throw one this week. Ultimately, though, just dominate. I mean, that's all there is to it. Key 2, defensive line, get pressure. Corday Sidnor is, like I said, back at practice today. I kind of hope they sit him out an extra week just to make sure he's ready for Missouri. Colby Taylor is back at practice after serving his suspension. He is back. So it's good to have him back. Hope to see him get some action as well and just kind of see what he's got after taking a week off. Vanderbilt minus 10 is a lock for me. I mean, it just really is. I can't see this going any other way. I've had people tell me to calm down and all this stuff, but I can't. Vanderbilt 35, Georgia State 7. That's my score prediction. 35-7. 28-point win for the Doors. Lock of the week already, even though we're not even there yet. Lock of the week, Vanderbilt minus 10. Put the house on it. Put your mortgage payment on it. If you miss it, if somehow we don't win by 10 and you can't pay your mortgage, I'm just sorry. I can't pay it for you.
Do you want to go ahead and get into some gambling?
Yeah, we can get to some gambling. Oh, I would like to say one other thing. If you're somebody, here's me going on a rant again about what people say to me. If you're somebody who's going to text me, and Britt almost said this on the podcast last week and he caught himself, or I would have said something to him live on this podcast. Nothing crazy. I wouldn't have told him I hate him or anything. I just would have said, Britt, you're whack. But if you come at me by saying, hey, remember you're Vandy, or, well, it's Vandy, I'm done with our conversation. I'm just done. Week 1, I want everyone to think that's listening to this podcast. Derek Hutcherson, if you're listening to this podcast, I know you used to listen. I doubt you do anymore. You probably got mad at me. I love you, Derek, in advance. But if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about throughout your life, and I'm not saying you've watched every Vanderbilt game. If you haven't, just call me. I'll tell you. I want you to think about times that Vanderbilt has went down in the fourth quarter and came back and won. That's all. That's the only question I'll ask. That's how I will defend myself that this is a new era until they prove me otherwise. This is just a completely new era. This is a completely new team. You can the great presidential candidate Kamala Harris said, we cannot be burdened by what has been. Okay? It's not time to be burdened by what has been, boys. It is only time to worry about what is now and what is happening. Derek, one other thing. I got to add one other thing just because it popped in my head. I'll never forget this moment. I'll never forget. I was talking about the landscape of NIL. I was talking about, this is not a hate on Derek Hutcherson, by the way. I already said it once. But again, I love you, Derek. I haven't talked to Derek in a while. I'm going to text him after this. But he said, I was talking about the changing of NIL landscape and how Vanderbilt has unlimited money on campus. And at the time, we hadn't got to access it yet. They hadn't really poured in NIL. And he said, well, they're always just going to be Vandy. And I said, how can you say that? How can you say that with all the resources? If you just knew all the resources were there, How could you say they're always just going to be that? So take everything you know about Alabama, Texas, UT, Vandy, Ole Miss, everything that was is no longer. Throw it out the window. I don't care what Saban did at Bama 3 years ago. I don't care what James Franklin did at Vandy 10 years ago. I don't care what Jeremy Pruitt or Derek Dooley did at Tennessee 10 years ago either. I don't care what any of them did. It's only about this year. And that's all I've got to say. I just needed to make sure I said that.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I mean, I do also see the other side of if that's all you've ever seen is Vandy be bad. It's kind of like Hitler. Like Hitler's known as a pretty bad guy. It's like if you saw in the news that Adolf Hitler saved a child, was about to get hit by a bus, and he dove in front of him and saved him, you would be like, well, he's still Hitler. He kind of killed all those people. It's kind of like Negan. Here we go. It's kind of like Negan when he smashed in, spoiler alert, Glenn and Abraham's head.
Spoiler alert.
And destroyed Alexandria. Killed a ton of people.
Negan came around to be a really good guy. Negan came around though. You
Yes,
can't be burdened by what has
but
been,
for
Mr.
Maggie,
Dillard.
for Maggie, it
They're
was
okay
never
now.
the same until the spinoff show when they kind of hooked up and was dating. And that's just
what?
And then it was just weird. Spoiler alert.
I haven't even watched the spinoff. That's crazy to me. I can't wait.
Spoiler
What happened
alert.
to Negan's wife? This is not
Lucille,
important.
she died of cancer.
No, not Lucille, the new wife. Who
He had
was pregnant.
He had multiple.
No, not nah, you missed the end of The Walking Dead. He had a wife that was pregnant at the end of The Walking Dead.
I don't remember that.
He did. Trust. But anyways, I just had to say that I don't love the even like people are talking about, like, if you switch to the NFL for a second, people will talk about, like, America's team. They'll talk about the Cowboys. I'm sorry, Matt. The Cowboys haven't been relevant in it forever. I don't want to hear about them being a pristine team. I don't want to hear about I don't go around talking about how the Raiders are a great organization because we won 3 Super Bowls in the 70s and 80s, because that doesn't matter. None of that
I forgot.
matters.
Negan was dating that black girl.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
She was pregnant. That's why I was like, are you sure they were dating? But anyways, yeah. Not the
And
point. We're not talking about
The
Walking Dead here.
NFL this weekend reminded me of how boring the NFL is. The 3 most exciting things in the NFL this weekend: Taylor Swift is back. Tyreek Hill was kind of abused by the police, and Deshaun Watson is still a creep. Those are the 3 headlines coming out of the NFL this week.
In order for the NFL to be exciting, you better be watching a pristine quarterback play the game, and that's the real way to find the
That's
same
the
kind
problem.
of to find the same kind of excitement that you have in college and the NFL is you have to get that. And another reason that there's way less chaos or excitement or fun in the NFL is obviously just because it's more balanced. It's a more balanced league. I'll always be an NFL defender. I love NFL football. I love watching great football where people don't miss their assignments and they're doing what they're supposed to. And you just simply have to be better than the other guy in order to win most days. You just got to be better. There's not going to be a lot of blown coverages. There's not going to be this or that. So I will always be an NFL respecter. However, to say that I had more fun watching the Raiders on Sunday than Vanderbilt would be a lie. So I'll include that as well.
Oh, let's do gambling.
Gambling. Let's get into it.
I went 3 for 5 again last week. No thanks to Iowa and Kansas for losing. Ridiculous.
I'm pulling up what I went right now.
Ridiculous, but I'll go ahead and give my 5 picks. I've got Tulane plus 13 against Oklahoma. Oklahoma does not look very good. Tulane looked pretty good or decent this past week, beating Kansas State. I've got Florida, the Gators, plus 4.5 at home against Texas A&M. Texas A&M bad. DJ Lagway, really good. Looked really good Saturday against a not good team, but we'll see about that. I like Florida in the points. Georgia minus 24 against Kentucky. Kentucky's really bad. Vandergriff had like 24 yards or something. Something insane. He's terrible. He's literally garbage. I've got Tennessee minus 49 against Kent State.
The bunch. Good
It is a
Lord.
bunt. It's not enough, though. And I've got the under in the Michigan-Arkansas State game. The Fighting Butch Joneses going to the Big House under 48. I think
like that.
Michigan offense not good. Defense still could be kind of good. Don't really know yet, but I like the under.
I like that. Last week I went 5 for 5.
Ooh.
If you followed my bets there, hopefully, unlike what I did, I added Kentucky in as an extra pick, Kentucky money line, and I said if you really just want to parlay all these things together, you can. And I left that one out of my 5 though, so my 5 hit. That was the under 50.5 in the Michigan game, Oklahoma State money line, Nebraska money line, Tennessee minus 7.5, and Kansas State money line. So all 5 of those hit. The locksmith is officially back. If I'm out here going 5 for 5. So that is amazing. As far as my parlay this week goes, first pick, I think we know Vanderbilt minus 10.5. It's where I got in at. It's like floating between 10 and 10.5 there. So really like that line. That is the lock of the week there. If you're going to bet the house on something, I would bet the house on that. Next one is, let me see here. I'm sorry, I've made so many bets. I'm having to scroll through. I have so many parlays. Let's see here. I think my best 5. Okay. Britt, did you take the Tulane Oklahoma game? What'd you take in that? Let me just make sure I don't take that one.
Tulane and the points.
Tulane plus 13. Did you get in at 13.5 there?
13.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Next game, I've got Texas A&M at Florida. I've got Texas A&M money line there. So I've got Vanderbilt minus 10.5 and Texas A&M money line. I've got Notre Dame at Purdue. Notre Dame's going to bounce back. I've got Notre Dame money line. Then I've got Washington State at Washington. At the 2:30 game, give me Washington money line again. All these point spreads that I'm taking the money line on are 5.5 or less, just to give everybody a heads up there. And then let's see one more game. Let's flip through here. Oh, I've got Louisiana Tech plus 28.5 against NC State. It's my last game.
Okay.
There are the picks there.
Well, this has been another edition here. Thank you for listening.
It's remember this. Hopefully we'll get back on this podcast. Combined, our teams will be 6-0. That is what we are hoping here. Britt, should we just go ahead and break the news that WTL's back live in action?
Yeah.
Are we breaking that? If as long as Vanderbilt wins big this weekend, if they don't, I will die and sell my tickets. But as long as Vanderbilt wins big this weekend, and really no matter what, me and Britt will be making a trip together again. The boys will be back. Michigan, we went there together. Pitt, we went there together. South Carolina, we went there together. Back this 2 weeks from now, we will be on the road to Columbia, Missouri to watch the Vanderbilt Commodores take on the number 10 ranked Missouri Tigers. So WTL will be back in live action, baby.
Gonna be playing a little Connor Stallions, Rugrat.
Yep.
Watch out.
Britt's already told me he's gonna bring his iPhone to make sure he can record some signs on the sideline to send them to Coach Heupel. So wish him the best of luck there to get that information to Coach.
But yep, look forward to it. Look forward to football this weekend. Hope everybody has a great week. Work hard. Focus. Don't take advantage of the boss. Maybe just a little bit. Go Vols. Have a good week.
Y'all have a blessed one. Anchor down, as always.